everybody. So welcome for joining me this evening. What an honor to be here. I am taking over Heartship. Um, I'm sorry, for the lovely Mila Deschamps. So I'm taking over, like I said, I'm taking over Heartship, the leadership of now, the now of culture, the now of workplace. So this is going to be a little bit interesting. This is my first time. So, guys, let me introduce myself. If you're unfamiliar with me, my name is Gabriel Leal. I host another live stream show called the Made from Scratch broadcast. So, hopefully, if you guys aren't familiar with me, you'll connect with me. But again, I am doing this for my lovely friend, Mila Deschamps. She is a little bit under the weather, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. That's what friends do. We do so much to help each other out. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me this evening. Now, I do have a couple of guests that I would like to introduce to you. First, let me introduce you to a very, very dear friend of mine. And again, he is the co-host of the 4-hour roundtables that we do every 2 weeks. Guys, welcome to the show, to Heartship, Mr. Mike Padurano. Hello, buddy. Can you hear me? Unmute your mic.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
All
Okay.
right, there we go. So,
all right. And of course,
technical. I'm having human errors apparently.
Exactly, but that's okay. Next up, let me introduce you to another one of my co-hosts. She is the host of the Living with Anitude podcast. She is very exciting and, of course, a wonderful friend. Welcome to the show, Miss Annie Leib. Hello, darling. How are you doing?
So exciting. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. So we
Awesome.
got that worked out, guys. So thank you so much, everybody who's been joining along, who's watching the show. So I'm probably wondering if there's a lot of people going, what is going on here today? So again, just to let everybody know, I am filling in for Mila. She always has a special place in my heart. So anytime a dear friend like her asks for a favor, I am quick to jump. So she's helped us out a few times in the pickle trying to get things together. So I'm always grateful for her and her friendship and what she does on her show. So real quick, guys, let's go ahead and jump into what the topics of her show are. And I know we didn't actually get a chance to discuss this, but one of the things that she likes to share a lot, of course, is talking about leadership and trust. And this is one of the things that I wanted to touch on as well, because these are both interesting topics that I'm trying to navigate and learn myself. So, kind of throw it to you guys because you've worked in teams before. You guys have done that sort of thing. So kind of walk me through the process of leadership, because, again, I'm learning this myself. So I'm taking baby steps and trying to understand what it is to be a leader. So any thoughts, guys?
Annie, you can go ahead, Annie.
So I've led teams before. I'm currently leading a team. And I think that there are different definitions of leadership. So, okay. and leadership is definitely changing. So leadership is now incorporating a lot of emotional intelligence as well as IQ. So there's more of that piece of it coming into play. And there's a lot more leaders that are leading with compassion and empathy these days. I think when you're a leader, you more are someone who steps back and observes and leads through sort of influence rather than a dictator telling people what to do. So I think the best leaders are the ones that know how to delegate responsibility, but also know how to say, like in my opinion, the greatest leaders that we have, whether it's in our country or on our teams that we work in, are the ones that build a really strong team around them. So like I was always taught, if I'm going to build a team, I'm not trying to be the smartest one. I'm not trying to be the strongest one. I'm trying to build that team, and I can lead them through my own through my own volition, but using each of them for their strengths. So being a good leader, in my opinion, is being able to figure out people's strengths and leading based on them and building a team out from you and then being able to delegate responsibility adequately. If you can do that, you can really lead a team. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And the reason I was really interested in learning it, like I'm saying, is because I'm actually reading a book. Of course, I've mentioned this to you. It's called Leadership and Self-Deception, and it was created by the Arbiter Institute, and it's a fable, but it's about leadership, and it talks about, you know, what they call a person, quote unquote, being in the box. So they have a distorted way of course, how they see people, and of course, the source of their problems. And it's fascinating to me because, you know, again, learning the tools and learning what it really means to understand what leadership is, and really challenging yourself, because again, a lot of times, like you said, a lot of these companies now, a lot of places are leading with heart, or leading with empathy, they're leading with compassion. And this is what this book kind of leads into. It really puts in depth a lot of what learning how to, first of all, know whenever you're starting to judge people, whenever you're starting to, again, what they call getting in the box. So you face a lot of issues, lack of commitment, lack of engagement, poor teamwork, lack of trust, communication problems, all these things, because again, I'm trying to broaden my aspect and view of what leadership is, because it's something that's very, you know, when I get hyper focused on something, this is what I love to do. I really love to get into learning and understanding. So this is kind of what I'm going through. And of course, you know, again, the avenues of trust and that sort of thing. So I was reading a secondary book called The Thin Book of Trust as well. And these are both fascinating topics to me because, again, they can equate just about anything in the workplace, in personal life, in what you do. So, I mean, that was, this is where I'm at, because I'm again, wanting to learn and start incorporating these things into my life in everyday practice.
So real quick, just to 1 second, just to go back, you made a key point about trust. And I think that is so key within leadership, because and you wrote about this today, trust within yourself, but also trust of others. And Mike can probably touch on this a little bit more, but you know, when you don't have trust, which at the foundation of your relationships and your teams, it's really hard to relinquish control. And as a good leader, I believe you do have to relinquish a lot of your control. And that's really hard. That takes practice and work and trust.
Yeah. And essentially that's what he says. I'm sorry, Mike, before you jump in, just about what it is to be, quote unquote, out of the box. Exactly everything that you just described is being that way.
So, okay. So here's a couple of things, right? Like, I've built many teams over the last, let's say, 13, 14 years. And I've built international teams where I've never met a person face to face. To me, the key is it goes beyond emotional intelligence. That is a huge part of it. But you also have to understand what that person's driving passion. You need to understand what that person's motivation is. What is going to make them work their best and their highest potential? And where do they want to go from? Even if you're helping somebody to progress to work their way outside of the job that you're giving them, and they go on to another career past you or another job past where you're working, that is fine, right? Because you'll get their best efforts in that meantime, and it will show the rest of the team that you trust and empathize with that, and you're willing to support their growth, no matter what it means in the long run. What I do is I look at it from a strategic side first, and I look at the pieces that fit the right puzzle, right? Because you need to look at the puzzle that you're trying to create, roles that you need filled. And then what you do is you find the people that fill those gaps, right? And just because they have a skill set that might not even fill those gaps, it doesn't mean they can't do that role or fit into that role or mold into that role, right? Just because you have to really look at where they are, where they want to go, and how they want to get there. And before you can trust anyone else, let's not kid ourselves, you got to trust yourself, right? You have to trust your own judgment first. And that's where most of insecure leaders come from, right? That's where, because they're so scared that they're going to lose their role, that they almost in a way hold everybody back because of it. When as a true leader that has full self-confidence, the best thing that can happen to you is that everybody surpasses you. Because at the end of the day, if they surpass you, you're going to move up beyond them. So it's about creating that cycle to where you're elevating everyone on your team around you and bringing it to a point to where you're putting them in their best position to succeed. And if you have a team of people doing that, then you're going to succeed at every single goal that you have. And you can't lose, right? Like, no matter what the goal is, it doesn't matter if it's recreating the education system. It doesn't matter if it's creating an electric car. It doesn't matter if it's landing on the moon and creating a colony and then going to Mars, right? If you trust your team, they will work themselves into those roles, and the goal is to never be the smartest person. You never want to be the smartest person in the room. The minute you're the smartest person in the room, you've already lost.
Yeah.
Because your team needs to surpass you in the things that you lack.
Yeah.
You know your own strengths and you know your weaknesses. If you can fill your weaknesses with the people that have strengths in those areas, then your team is won as a team.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the Patriots are the perfect example. Not that any of the three of us like them, but there is no team better in history that can take miscellaneous pieces and fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Now, granted, my Giants beat them twice in the Super Bowl, so that's okay. So I can say that and be okay with it. Oh, I knew that was coming. So,
well, can I just to be funny? I mean, of course, it would be hard to do that if you were on a team with like Stephen Hawking. But other than that,
Well, but no. But at the same time, he would find the ones that can do things better than him.
Well, of course, yeah.
Maybe he would find a communicator better than him, right? Because
well, also the Patriots cheat. So when you have cheaters involved, you can't really base leadership on people that cheat. So, but
well,
I
think to leadership though they have 6 titles, right?
I mean, yeah.
Not under current leadership.
When you do things to the balls and you read others, the other team's signs and you cheat, it's not hard to win. I mean, look, we can't argue about. Let's not talk football because I can't even go there right now. It's been a really long day, and I don't want to talk about Tom Brady. This is a Heartship show. Okay?
Yes, this is about heart. Okay,
this is supposed to be from your heart.
Yeah, of course, and again, like what we're saying, and not to use the example, but like what VaynerMedia does, right? You have somebody like, say, Claude Silver, right? I've been listening a lot to a lot of her videos, and I'm in wonder of how a person like that exists. And I simply mean because it is the way that she has, the way she operates, the way she's heart-centered, the way that she does, even her notes. I was reading one where she did her notes. That was incredible to read. There's a lot of lessons to reading it because you see both ends of the business spectrum and, of course, the heart-centered way that she operates. It was fascinating.
Can you tell me a little bit more? Because I'm not really familiar. I mean, I know obviously who she is, but I don't know.
Okay, she's the chief heart officer of VaynerMedia, and she is responsible for the well-being of everybody there. That's all she really does. Is how to work and operate with over. I think last time I heard her, she was on a podcast with Marcus Aurelius, and she said over 900 employees. Right.
So she's in charge of the culture of the company?
Yeah, the culture of the company.
Well, okay, so let's take it a step back. She's in charge of the culture of the whole parent company, the whole holding company. Not just VaynerMedia, but VaynerX, right? That owns
VaynerX, yes.
The one that owns all the different pieces.
It's a pretty big job.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big, exactly. And to be that way and how to operate like that, it marvels me. I'm simply marvel. And it is something to strive to want to learn and understand somebody like that because there's so much you can learn from a person like that.
But it's also the right situation. So let's not kid ourselves either, right?
Of course.
Like Gary V, I mean, none of us really know him, but from everything, I mean, he's everywhere. So I guess we pretty much do, right? Like, I mean, he leads with his heart, but when he's a business operator, he still leads with his heart. And he needs somebody by his side to keep that in check and also lead with their heart so that he can do business operations on a daily basis. And it's a perfect fit And she actually left the company because she didn't want the role that she had anymore.
Yeah.
And he came to her to create that role for her. Right.
And told her, and yeah, she essentially told him, that's all I care about. And he told her, I know. Right. And so to create that, and I think a lot of businesses are doing that though. They're seeing that example and how it can work in some examples.
There's a lot of them saying it.
Of course.
And then there's a few doing it, right?
There's a few but it takes those baby steps to see how that operates. I mean, we operate just like, again, to go back to football, we operate in a copycat system. So when we see something that starts working, a lot of quote unquote teams or companies start using those trends and going, okay, wow, look at the success and look at the things that they've done and look at how they've taken off and look at retention and look at all these other things that are very important to a company. Why is it working for them? And then they go back and see those things. And hopefully a lot of them go, okay, cool. Let's really, I mean, not all of them, of course, can be like that. But I mean,
well, and it comes down to the best leaders being able to do that. So like it used to be top-down management where it was like dictatorships, all that mattered was the very people at the very top, right? And now it's more centrally based. So I just saw that pop up. I don't know if you need to get that message, Mike. Okay. So I think that one of the big things that we not missed, but that we didn't cover yet is like how, to me, like I have to, in order to have trust in leadership, I need them to be able to roll up their sleeves and get in the dirt with me. Like, so I don't really respect as much as maybe I should. Maybe this is an anti-authority complex or something, but I don't like really respect as much as I should somebody that's just telling me what to do, or I don't tell people what to do. Like I want them to know, my team knows I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I can do your job, whether I'm going to do it every day or not. They know that I can and I will, and that I'm willing to, and that is what helps to develop the trust, right? So like you don't just start a job and have a manager, or, you don't just automatically trust a leader. Like they have to sort of instill that in their people. Yeah. Oh, I thought Mike was talking, but he couldn't. So I think that, you have to, as the people, you have to have an openness to that. As the manager or leadership, you have to instill that in people. You can't just expect it. When you just expect it, you fall flat on your face, I think. And then people don't really respect you. And then they don't believe in the mission and the vision. And then, things go to crap. So I think there is a lot of heart involved, and it involves a main piece, which is developing that trust.
Yeah. And to add on to that, right? Like, I mean, the best leaders understand that they work for their team at all ends. Like Annie said, not only rolling the sleeves up and also getting in and getting dirty and doing the grind work if they have to, but it's also they support their team. They don't care about ego. They don't care about, it's not about their metrics. It's not about their end goal. Daddy. They care about the overall success of the team. Dad. And being willing to. Yes, Sid.
So essentially like Bill Belichick, right?
Daddy. Yeah, exactly.
To go back to what we're talking about sports. Exactly.
That one.
So like Bill Belichick, right? That's, I hate to use him as an example, but I think that's exactly what we're talking about, what he's essentially done, because it's not like he's had the same team for the same amount of years. Yes, he's had the same quarterback, but it's transitioned over the last 12, 13 years that he was there. So I think that has to speak something to his leadership style and what he is as a leader.
But I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't even want to say it. Go ahead. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about them.
I don't think it comes down to him getting in and doing the grunt work, right? He runs a very tight ship, and it's a dictatorship. And if you want to be a part of that winning organization, then you've got to do it his way. And let's not kid ourselves.
Or get out.
Right. And it works for them. It works for them right now, right? And it worked for them all the years that Tom Brady took less in salary so that it benefited the rest of the team, right? So moving on from the Patriots, at the end of the day, right? Any leader who's a true leader will honestly put their team first. They have to acknowledge that they work for in all capacities, whatever it is, right? You don't just throw one of your team members under the bus unless they're doing it to somebody else, right? You protect your own, and you lift them up and show them that you have their back. You know, you
and
find
that develops trust, right?
Right,
I mean,
and that's where that,
builds
and
trust
that's
in them.
exactly, and it's exactly what you said, though, Annie. It's that rolling up the sleeves and getting in there, right? And it's a little bit deeper and going all the way to the extreme of saying, my only job is to work for this team, because if I can make this team succeed, then I'm succeeding. It doesn't matter if I look great at the top of a broken team, right? Like, it means nothing, you know.
But see, what used to be was that leaders and managers thought that they had to dictate in order to gain respect, or else things wouldn't get done. So now the shift is, I'm working for you as the leader. The leader is the one doing the work. So that's been the shift, and that's where, it's a buzzword, emotional intelligence and EQ comes into play, but it also is true. I mean, I left a company. I'm not going to say which one because people can look me up, but I left a company because I didn't believe in the mission and the vision of our leadership. Not leadership. I'm talking about leadership. Like I did not feel that they had the backs of our team. I did not feel that there was trust developed there. It was top down, it was dictating, and it was, you better, like the Patriots, you conform or you're out. And I'm not a conformist. So, there's a reason why year after year, this team that I, still keep track of is not successful. And that's because they're not leading with any emotion. They're leading purely on data and metrics, like you said, Mike. And it's like, that's not what really matters, because that's why there's a revolving door with employees, because there's no trust that's been developed. So there's no strong leadership there.
Yeah. But to what we're talking about, not that this is okay, but there is a way for both examples to work, right? I mean,
I think it depends on the industry. It depends on what the reward. I think it depends on what the reward is, right? Because if the reward is being at the peak of your industry and getting accolades for that, and Super Bowl rings and getting to that trophies and getting 6 of them, getting to the Super Bowl 9 times, you're going to sacrifice certain things to be part of that, right? So that's a little bit different. Like if you're
working at Nabisco.
Right. And I mean, if you're on the Dallas Cowboys, you're not going to put up with the same stuff, because you're just not.
You're just not. I mean, it's just shit.
It's been over a millennia. Like, I mean, it's not even this millennium that they've been in this. So, but I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, I mean, if you're on trust me, if you're on the Giants, you ain't doing it either. So there's no reason to stay, right? Because you have no faith in your management.
But you're right. You make such a good point that it depends, because it's where you are. Like we're not really talking about a team where there's how many spots on a team in the NFL, right? This is like companies that these days employees, jobs are available, and if you're good and if you can make stuff happen, you can find another position. So companies have to keep you. Leadership has to do a good job for the most part. And right now, if they're not basing things on EQ and they're not leading with their heart, people aren't going to stay.
And to go back to Claude Silver and VaynerMedia is another example, right? Like VaynerX, when they let somebody go, they actually pay them for 2 more weeks to go help them find a new job.
Yeah.
They help build up their resume. They help build up their resume. They help build up their LinkedIn. They reach out to other companies to say they might be a fit for them. Like they have a whole division for that.
Yeah, that's something that's really commendable, because that's one of the high praises that Adam talks about, because Adam was let go from there as well. Claude was the one that let him go. And that's how much he still reveres a woman though, right? I mean, so that kind of tells you what it's like to walk away from something like that and still have the capacity to go, I still love that person and who that was that let me go. Because again, most people get let over, they resentment, bitterment. There's screw that person anyway. What do they know, right? It's not very often you get to hear that and you go, wow, okay, I still revere the person who fired me. You know,
well, they talk about exit strategy and like, you know, that you shouldn't, it's not just about the onboarding process, but what's the exit process when you leave a company. And that company that I was just talking about had a terrible exit process. And it's all in alignment with each other, you know, like there's a reason that there's not the success there. There's a reason that the leadership isn't where it should be. And there's a reason that the exit process is terrible.
Yeah.
And it's all part and parcel. So, you know, like you just said, the exit process there at Vayner is that's, first of all, that's an anomaly. But secondly,
it is
they're
today.
leading from the heart. They're doing it. They're walking the walk, talking the talk.
But it is today. That doesn't mean that 10 years from now it won't be, right? Because if they're proving that it's a proven method and that they get the best future employees because they treat the ones that they let go the best, and they're constantly fueling other companies with evolved employees, right? Because now they're bringing them to the next level and showing them the error of their ways. Now, not only are you educating somebody while you have them, but you're educating them when they leave, right? And you're teaching them that there's a better way to go about how they live their life, right? Like it's
valuing them. It's valuing them as people.
Right. And let's be honest, right? Like Glassdoor has a big reason that all these companies are making this shift. Anybody could look up any company and see what a former employee said now. Yeah. Before the internet, that wasn't, nobody cared, right? Because you weren't going to call your 1,000 closest friends because nobody had them. So, it just didn't exist. I mean, cell phones held 125 names. So, you weren't getting very far back then. And I could go to LinkedIn. If I want to go work at a company, I can go to LinkedIn and look up former employees. I could reach out to 5 of them in 3 minutes and be like, what was your experience at this company? Right? Like I can do my own homework. I can find out what their experience is, right? And then I also know what questions to ask when sitting down in the interview. Right? Yeah. Because if there was a consistency in all 5 of those people, either all 5 of them had the same problem, or they just weren't the exact same culture fit, which is probably, I find that hard to believe, 5 out of 5. Or there's an issue in the way that company did things. And you can address those in the interview in a very friendly and intelligent way to say, why and how have you made changes? And why is your turnover in this department so large? And why are you looking to change it? And how are you looking? I'm not looking to be the next person that somebody looks up on LinkedIn. I want to be here. I'm trying to create, make this a stepping stone for myself and maybe either step up here or step up somewhere else.
Yeah.
But again, many companies fear employees leaving.
Yeah.
But they look at it the wrong way. Yeah. Because you're never getting somebody's best if you're scared they're going to leave.
Yeah. Or even potentially finding a home for the rest of your career. I mean,
I don't know if that exists anymore, to be honest.
Well,
I just don't.
It's unfortunate or fortunate. It really doesn't exist anymore. It's not how people look at things. It's not like our parents, that worked at one place for their whole career anymore. It's a whole new world.
Well, even one industry, right? Like, I mean, people hop industries now all the time because with technology in place, I mean, you can really take your skills to almost any industry if you're on the tech side. Or if you're in sales, it can apply to almost any industry. If you have a conscience, anything you believe in. If you don't have a conscience, then it can be anything, right? Yeah. So I feel like, you have to also know who you're talking to and what the topic is and what their what their motivation is. It comes down purely to reading somebody's motivation. Because if those are the questions that you ask somebody, you don't even look at their resume, you'll know so much more about somebody by asking them their motivation, where they want to be and how they want to get there. Not in the time period, because I don't think time periods exist anymore. Anybody who had a 10-year plan going into COVID, I'm pretty sure it's gone. So, everybody's at square one again. So I feel like it's time to stop asking stupid questions. Where do you want to be in 5 years? I don't know. Is an asteroid hitting? Because if it is, that can change my answer, right? Like
that's really key. I think you bring up a really good point about, Matthew said about crossover knowledge. So transferable skills are huge, but I think you bring up, really good point about interviewing and the way that companies are interviewing to bring on talent and the way they're finding talent, I think says something about their leadership team as well and their management.
Yeah.
Because that's where it all starts, right? So if they're not happy with the way their employees are producing or their work of their employees, then maybe they need to take a look at the talent acquisition specialists and who's bringing on the talent and what questions they're asking.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, again, that goes back to making people want to work for their best, right? Supporting them, even if their goal is to leave in 3 years and they're fully transparent about it. Get the best 3 years out of them you can. Because all that's
what questions do you ask? What questions do good leaders ask? Like how do you get the best talent if you have a good leadership team?
It depends who you're asking. Like, everybody has their own way of doing things, right? I mean, that's the
they're
truth.
big into like behavioral questions now.
They're big what?
Like, tell me a time when.
Oh, I've had the worst interviews.
They're really
in the
into
world,
behavioral.
So like, don't ask me. I've done the worst interviews in the world. I've interviewed with very large companies that have the stupidest questions in history. And I literally just walk away 5 minutes into an interview. I get up and walk out because I know where it's headed. I won't even sit through it, right? Where do you graduate college? It doesn't matter. Where do you, where do you want to be in 10 years? You have no clue. So it doesn't matter. You can't imagine it because you're in a box, right? So you're asking the wrong person, because I hate authority. So that's a whole different story.
We know you're anti-authority.
I'm not anti-authority. I'm like completely against it. So
Zero authority.
Yeah. Like, no empathy towards authority unless they're in there and running their team through their efforts, right? And putting in that work, like Annie said before. If they're doing the work, they'll get 100 times more out of me than if they weren't. If they're one of those dictator leaders, I will walk out of that room so fast. It doesn't matter what they're paying me, what the job is. I won't do it. I will not do it. Sure. I just won't. Some of the best questions I've ever been asked are like, what motivates you? What drives you? What are you looking to get out of your career? Not just specifics to that job.
Yeah.
Right. Like, where do you want to be? Like, what is your career? Where do you expect to go?
Yeah.
How do you expect to get there? It had nothing to do relevant with the job at hand. Right. So if you know that somebody wants to save the world by changing the education system, right, and you're selling shoelaces, right, so they're probably going to leave, but you can also put them on a career path towards your foundation side of your business, right, because there might be passions that interline there, and there might be some tie back in later if they actually reach their goals, rather than and feeding it back into itself.
You have to have really good leadership to do what you're doing, to do what you're saying. Like, you have to have people that really have an overarching view and a vision of what they want to do. And that's the problem, is I don't think enough people do.
Because they're never, it's the system, right? It's the way that the system's been created, that you take that next step up. You always want to work towards that next step. The innovative mind and mentality and creativity goes out the window a lot of times when you get into that grind. When you're spending those 30 years, like people used to move up in that consistent career and go that step at a time, right? To get that pension, which just doesn't exist anymore. Right. So when that was what you were working towards and getting to the highest salary range before that happened, it was a different story, right? Like, you could work your way up. You could put the time in. If you knew that you put 30 years in, you would have a career path that would zigzag, and you'd eventually get to some type of executive level, right? If not just because of nepotism alone. So talent didn't matter. Now people's talent is really transparent, because you can look on the internet and find anything, right? There's no more secrets. So it's not like you can do a horrible job and every person that works for you is going to say you're the best.
Right.
There's no fear.
You can't blow smoke like you used to be able to. So.
Right. So I think that the social media transparency has enhanced that. And now it's more in the employee's benefit than it is in the employer. The only thing that the employers have is fear, right? So they try to instill fear to keep their employees there.
Well, unless they have a really, really, like Vayner, like a really strong foundation in trust, honesty, and commitment to their vision and mission, then I don't think that they lead out of fear. Like, I don't. Right. And why is that?
Because that's how Gary is, right? Like, that's his goal.
He's on a mission, right?
Well, he's on a mission. Every company that he co-founds is with somebody that he hired. like somebody that he hired and almost fired, right? Like he kicked them out of the main company to create a sub company with the co-founding with them, right?
So he
like,
has an overall vision of what he wants to do, and he makes the moves to do it, right? He's strategic.
But it's bigger than that. It goes deeper than that, right? Because his questions, he never looks at a resume. He said it in many of his interviews. He never looks at a resume. It means nothing to him. He has a conversation with them, finds out where they want to go, and then he is able to adapt his strategic plans around where they want to go based on how they react to his culture.
Yeah.
Right. So he might already have 20 scenarios in his head of where that individual might end up, and create empathy wines with them that just got sold to Constellation. Right.
It's a fascinating process that he uses, man.
It's a brilliant process. It's a genius.
It's fascinating to look at and break down, because I think it's something if more people to actually look at, right?
Why do you think they're not?
They're scared shitless.
They're scared. It's the fear of breaking the system. This is not traditional. This is not something. Yeah, this is not in our bylaws. This is not how we created it. This is so and so. And whenever you again, that was one of the things that shocked me when I first started doing investigative work on Gary as well. It's like, wow, that's interesting. It takes that approach. I mean,
but you're talking about a guy, Gabe, who spent 10 years of his life putting his parents' company up for nothing. He didn't take equity in their company. He didn't make over $60,000 a year.
Of course.
And he built them from $3 million a year to $60 million a year. Walked away
on the internet. Yeah.
Right. And walked away.
Yeah.
Literally walked away from the company without asking them for a penny or anything. Started Vayner in his friend's conference room from scratch again. You're dealing with somebody who has that confidence that they can replicate their own success.
Yeah. And it's not, and you don't find many people like that. So kind of, if you ever guys have followed Dave Ramsey, same sort of deal, right?
Can you bring that comment back up, Gabe? While you're talking about this, just bring that comment back up.
So yeah, it's the same sort of deal. That's the same thing that Dave Ramsey did. He was a multimillionaire by the time he was 24. Lost it all, right? Mistakes, bad investments, the same sort of deal. Started it from scratch again, knowing what he knew, knowing what he did at the same sort of deal, on a table from nothing, with an idea, a vision, and the way that he created. It's the same sort of deal. He's a man with a vision. When you get some people like that who really want to help impact and change people's lives like he does. A lot of people don't agree with what he does, but then again, a lot of people aren't going to agree with your vision and whenever you create it. I mean, it's like some people still call Gary a charlatan, right? I've heard people say that. I'm like, what do you know? Have you even investigated who the guy is? It's all just surface level stuff that they see about him, not knowing what it is, what his system is, how he is, what he created. And it's the same sort of deal. There's plenty of people who can do this. I mean, it really just takes you learning, being aware, and again, knowing yourself, right?
But it goes beyond that, right? And Matt made a point, right? It's also being secure enough, right? And you've got to be so secure within yourself. But there's also a part of it, right? Like, he failed school. He was horrible in school. He did horrendous in school. I mean, he did worse than me. He did worse than me in school, except he completed it. So that's probably the only difference. But like, I mean, and that's hard to do. But like,
so there's hope for you, right?
But there is. He knows his end goal in life, right? He knows where he wants to end up. And what I've absorbed from him over the last 2.5, 3 years from listening is having the adaptability of the steps to get there. He doesn't make that 5-year, 6-month goal, 9-month goal, year goal. I've got to take these steps. And if one step crumbles, then all of it falls down. He says, this is where I'm going to end up. And I'm going to make 300 steps in between. I'm going to make at least 50 wrong decisions in between. But as long as I make 100 right decisions or even 30 perfect decisions, then the 50 wrong ones don't matter. Right? So it's there's a big part of this, right? He has this strategy mindset that goes so much deeper than what most people can even comprehend, right? Because he's planning out these scenarios and strategies on a multi-layered approach to where if one piece falls, he already has 12 pieces to slide back in it. And if one person doesn't reach the expectations that he wants, he shifts them to a different role while then having 6 more slide right back in. So he has this multi-layered approach of all the moving pieces and how they can intertwine to create the same end result. So the way that he's created his businesses, the way that he did K-Swiss, right, with the shoe company, created the shoe brand, he proved to himself that he could take any brand and rebuild it because they got sold a year later, right, for hundreds of millions, you know. And then there was, what was the one after it? And then it was just his Empathy Wine, which literally 18 months in, and you're talking about coronavirus in between, you know, it was sold for 8 digits, whatever those 8 digits were, right? So, I mean, you're talking about barely a 2-year-old company that he's just proving.
So this is a model that can be duplicated, do you think?
I mean, if somebody pays attention enough, yeah. Most people don't pay attention enough.
Ding, ding, light bulb. Wow.
I mean, it's the egocentric part of it that gets in the way, right? It's our own ego and think we have.
I was going to bring that up. Yep.
You know, and the truth is, you have to apply it to your own strengths, right? He knows his strengths and his weaknesses, and he admits it completely. So that's part of it, and he's judgment free. He doesn't judge himself. So that's the part that, like, I still have trouble with on a daily basis, not judging myself.
I think,
you know, that's the toughest one.
That's a practice. That's a practice. That's not something you just pick up with.
Yeah, that's something I try to do every day. I mean, it's hard.
It's really hard.
Hard to really look at that. I mean, it's the struggle.
And to have the awareness to know what you're
doing, right? To go, holy fuck, what am I doing? Oh, I don't know if I can cuss on a show.
Yeah, I know.
Little late for that, Gabe. Little late. See, I was being really good about that too. Like, you know, I was.
Sorry about that. If everybody's watching, sorry.
Okay.
That happens sometimes on another show. So
sometimes, every once
in a while. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. You flipped.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So, guys, let me throw that out there. Sorry, throw the heart out there. Love you. So let's get into kind of like, I don't know, how can we wrap this up? Not that I don't want to keep this conversation going, but I do have a hard stop because I do have to jump on another quote unquote show after this. So you want to give me your thoughts, Annie, on, you know, what you can share with the audience about your views on leadership and trust and what you think most people can learn from you and walk away with that'll help them be better people, better team leaders mañana?
I think that when it comes down to it, it has everything to do with you and nothing to do with you. So it has nothing to do with you in that it's really about your people. That's how you lead. But it has everything to do with you in that you have to self-reflect and you have to be able to have awareness and look at how you affect people and what you're doing and the affect that has, and how you're showing them that you can be trusted and you honor your commitments. And when you're able to do that, when you take the time and you have the patience to lead like that, then you're much more likely to have a strong team around you. And also be interested, find people's strengths, find out what they're looking for, what they want to do, where they want to go. When you make people instead of just your employee, that's what builds a strong team, and that's what leads to success.
Wonderfully put. Mr. Padurano, what about you?
My advice for any company out there is to throw out their HR handbook. Just completely get rid of their interview process because they're all crap.
Just
I feel like it needs to be reinvented from scratch, the way that Claude and Gary have done it, the way that other companies have done it, and other people, you know, consultants in HR have done it, right? Like, there's a reason that staffing is necessary, right? Because they actually know their client, right? They know the individual that they're bringing to the table. So they know if it's a right fit before even walking in that door. So, and they spend the time doing it for the company. The thing is, I feel like you can still do that scenario, but the problem is if you get into the company, you get that job offer, the money great, the deal great, everything's great. Doesn't mean that the culture is still going to be the right fit. It doesn't mean that your first level superior, whatever that is, right, is going to be, everything that the company has ambitions to be. And I think that there's a very big gap right now between the way that they train middle management and the way that they communicate their motives when hiring people. I feel like it's a lot of it is fear-based for the employee that's starting because they don't want to have to go through that process all again. They kind of intentionally or unintentionally know that person doesn't want to go look for a new role, right? So then they kind of test the waters to push limits to see what that person can handle, rather than giving them an environment that can thrive and really accelerate their ambitions, their motivation, their passions in life. Because when that person finds that role, when they find the role that is just brings them as a human being to the next level, they light up and they want to just take over the world for that company. Like they will just do whatever it takes and be the best human being, the best person in that job that they can, right? And it's very important for the person looking for the job to look in specific areas that they know will accelerate that direction. But just because they're looking in that area doesn't mean that the company's gonna be the right fit. So there's a multi-layered approach here. Are the companies just selling a bill of goods to get people in the door to try and create those metric numbers, or are they really building into somebody's future? And I think a lot of these companies need to look at an infinite mindset and either hire Simon Sinek or read his books a few times to figure out where you want to be, right? Like, do you have that path to keep growing into the future? Are you the Amazons of the world where everybody mocked you for 20 years for building warehouses? What do you need warehouses for? You sell books, right? Or are you, unfortunately, potentially Zoom right now, where you didn't set that up for that success level. And now that you have that success, you're kind of collapsing at the knees because you can't handle the load because you didn't prep for it. You didn't set yourself up for it. You didn't have the channels in place to be able to facilitate.
You didn't have the vision.
Right. And that's all part of it, right? It's when you're setting up a master plan, you need to plan past whatever you believe you're going to be able to succeed with. You need to have in mind what pieces you bring to the table if it gets to that point. You don't want to, fall on your face in front of the whole world and then in turn do it to your employees, right? Because the people that work for them might be disenchanted with it, and they might go invent, Zimmy, right, instead of Zoom, and they might have the infinite mindset. Yeah. And in 15 years, they'll be everything Zoom could have been.
Yeah. Because
Zoom failed to do that.
That's right. I'm gonna get on the Zimmy call, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like the name too.
I like the name, right?
But
I like
it. Let's run with it.
That's right.
But I feel like, Hewlett Packard, Compaq, CompuServe, right? These computer companies that couldn't see past their next step. All
get out of their own way.
Right. And Hewlett Packard ended up gobbling them up. Gateway Computers. I like them. There's a little cow on it. But but those are the things, right? Like you look at these pieces and you see, looking back, you can picture the ones that had this mindset versus the ones that didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's exactly what we're seeing in the retail space now, right?
What retail space?
Well, like companies that were
no. What retail space?
I'm talking like companies that were like JCPenney's, all these companies now that are pretty much falling under done. I mean, because of not doing that, right? Not seeing that.
Then you look at Schofeld's, right, which is a perfect example of having experiential purchasing and experiential shopping, and those are going to flourish because they're bringing you in the door to actually experience, and you can walk out the door with those products, and you could also do online subscriptions. So it's that careful balance of e-commerce versus not. And I'm not walking into Macy's to see Santa anymore.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
So the Macy's Santa was always the thing, but I'm not going to pay 50% more for the same thing I can go buy on Amazon and have it in 2 days. I'm just not.
I mean, they're going to bring, that's right. And they bring it to my door.
That's the world we live in. So,
all right, guys. So what a great talk.
It was fun. Thanks for inviting me.
I appreciate this. Thank you. And of course, thank you to our gracious host who, again, let's hope she feels better. Mila, thank you so much for inviting me on, and of course, letting me bring my two wonderful friends on to have a conversation. And I hope they've added a lot of value to your guys' lives, because they sure did.
Poor
mine
Mila.
today.
She didn't know. Mila didn't know she was bringing the Three Musketeers on tonight.
You get one, you get all three. So
Get 'em all.
that's right. You get the bookend, you get everything in between. So guys, thank you so much. Follow Mila, please. If you're not connected to her on LinkedIn, check her out on LinkedIn. She's on Twitter as well. She does her Heartship chats on there as well. Check her out. She's such a wonderful person. Really great heart. I love following her. She's super awesome. And I don't like that face, Mike. I don't know what that was.
I'm hearing sounds like it, like.
I'm sorry. It caught me. It caught me off guard. And I'm sorry. Just maybe it tickled me. So.
I'm like hearing the sounds come out of the back. Yeah.
Okay. But again, thank you so much, everybody who's been watching this show. And thank you guys as well for hopping on and inviting this wonderful chat. I look forward to many more of these. And of course, the audience, Matthew Perkins, thank you for all that you've done, sir. He's one of my Infinity streamer brothers, and he is an awesome guy. So if you're not connected with Matt either, please connect with him. Super, super awesome guy. So thank you again, guys, so much. Sorry that I have to end it. I would love to keep this conversation going. I really would, but I got to jump somewhere else. So thank you, Annie. Thank you, Mike, guys.
Have a good night.
Wonderful evening. Thank you, Mila, as well. And guys, hopefully she will be back next week. If not, I might be back in the seat and might be bringing this crew along for a ride again. So thank you again, guys, so much. You guys have a great evening.
Not next Monday, you won't be.
Well, not next.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
No.
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 No, we're busy.
Yeah.
I might be doing it myself.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So if Mila, quote unquote, if you need a host, I think I know one.
Okay.
So, there you go. So thank you so much, everybody else, for watching the show. Thank you, Mila, again. And you guys have a great evening. We'll talk to you again soon. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye.